Welcome back to part 2 of the Rogue subclass tier list video, where we'll be looking at the good stuff. Alright, we're going to be checking out the Rogues B's, A's, and of course the S tier. If you have missed part 1, alright, I'll put the little, banner up here at the top. Alright, go check out part 1 to see where the Thief, the Scout here, and of course the Mastermind ended up falling into. But you're here for the good stuff, so let's just go ahead and go right on into it with my very first B tier. This might astound people. This might even piss some people off, but hear me out. All right, I might convert you to my way of thinking just yet. All right, so my very first B tier is the Assassin. All right, bonus proficiencies. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you gain the proficiency with the Disguise kit and the Poisoner's kit. Okay, not terrible, but pretty situational. Assassinate, starting at 3rd level. This is the reason anybody takes this fucking class, right? You are at your deadliest when you get the drop on your enemies. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn yet in combat, and in addition, when you score against a creature that is surprised, it is a critical hit. Specifically, where it says any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. If you're curious as to how powerful this can be, go check out my Ranger Part 2 tier list video, where I have created the monster that is the Gloomstalker 3, Fighter 2, Assassin 3 character that could attack like 6 fucking times in the first round of combat, all of which is technically considered critical hits, and you can just fucking obliterate whatever big bad your DM threw at you right out of the gate. But we need to talk about this ability. And we need to talk about here when it comes to the wording and putting it into context from the mindset of a DM. Because after all, that's usually what I am. I am usually a DM. This ability is very, very good. Having advantage on any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat yet basically means that if you have advantage, you get sneak attack. So if you get to go first, any creature that you hit, you get a much better chance of hitting them, and you immediately get to use your sneak attack. Nothing else has to apply to you because you have advantage, which according to rules is written, sneak attack damage is added to any roll that has advantage for you. Now, it's this last part that gets questionable. In addition, you score against a creature that is surprised. That hit is considered a critical hit. Here's my problem with that word. Surprised. Surprised is not spelled out in very specific terms in the DM's guide. I don't think Jeremy Crawford has come out with a ruling, that really, spells out what the surprised condition falls into. So it's kind of one of these things where the surprised condition is really up to the DM's discretion. Which means that this whole class, because after all, let's be honest here, this is probably why you went Assassin, right? Like, you went Assassin to get that sweet, sweet auto crit, on surprised enemies. That's why you chose it. That's why a lot of people choose this class. It's why I made it for my Gloomstalker insta-kill build. The problem is that this is something you have to talk to the DM about session 0 and say, DM, I'm thinking about going Assassin Rogue when we reach level 3. Tell me what constitutes a surprised creature. Because I'm going to tell you something, and it maybe is going to piss off, any listener here who plays D&D and is like, wow, you're really shitting on, you're really making it that I would never want to play an Assassin Rogue. But it's like, to me, like, I believe that things should be believable. I think that there should be, I know that we're playing a fantasy game, that's all about fucking dragons and, fucking dragons. That's all about dragons and elves and dwarves and all of these things. But I still think that there should be some, relation of realism. There should still be some realism in our games. So for instance, if my enemy knows that you're in their lair, if they have been told, because the group of goblins out in the front came and attacked you, and one of them escaped without you really knowing that they were there, ran back through the caves and told the big bad, hey, there's enemies coming. Obviously they would do it in a goblin voice, and I'm not going to fucking try to throw down right now. But, they tell the big bad that, hey, there are people in the front and they're coming this way. In my mind, that creature is now immune to the surprise condition. You can still get that advantage. If you go before my big bad here in the back of the cave, all right, you still get that the sneak attack if you go first, because you have the advantage and stuff if you hit. But that creature is no longer surprised because it knew you were here. Its hackles are up, its defenses are up, its armor is on, its weapon is in its hand. To me, a surprise creature is a creature that had absolutely no idea you were here. Their defenses were down. They weren't thinking about, that they need to protect their weak spots. And I think that because that is a word, because the surprised condition is something that is so DM dependent, I can't put this into A tier. Now, if it's spelled out, if it said that the surprise condition is A, B, C, it spells out exactly, and so all DMs have to follow that condition, then we could read it and figure out, like, okay, what does this do then for the assassin subclass? The problem is that it doesn't. It's up to DM discretion to decide what constitutes as surprised, which means this ability could either be absolutely broken as fuck, 3 levels of assassin, go everything else into some kind of archer fighter or distant ranger, archer ranger or something, and just pop, a whole bunch of shots and a whole bunch of damage into an enemy right out of the gate. And just, if it's all surprise, it says any hit against the creature is surprise as a crit. You could do so much damage so quick that it makes me as a DM have to look at that word surprised and go, this may be good or it may be bad. And I just don't know. I don't know what DM you have. I don't know what they would constitute that as. And because of how I run it, I think you would find that most of your enemies are not surprised by you. I think, you'll always get that advantage on the first strike, because I feel like on average, the rogue usually ends up going first most of the time. But that auto crit, I think that's going to be a pretty rare instance. It'll be awesome when it hits, but I think it's going to be rare for you. All right, 9th level, we have Infiltration Expertise. You can unfailingly create false identities for yourself. You must spend 7 days and 25 gold pieces to establish the history, profession, affiliations for an identity. You can establish an identity that belongs to someone else. For example, you might acquire appropriate clothing, letters of introduction, and official-looking certification to establish yourself as a member of a trading house from a remote city, so you can insinuate yourself into the company of other wealthy merchants. Thereafter, if you adopt a new identity as a disguise, other creatures believe you to be that person until given an obvious reason to not to. This is, again, it's very situational. It's cool if it works. My problem is that last sentence especially could either make or break this ability. For instance, because I am, again, I've said this once, I've said this twice, I've said this multiple times, I'm a DM that has a little bit of realism in his videos, I'm a little bit of realism in my D&D games, which means that there are going to be times where I will role play out a discussion between a merchant and this player in this particular circumstance. And I'm going to say right now that if they're talking to a merchant who knows what he's talking about, and this player is just is answering questions in a way that would make this merchant go, this dude doesn't fucking know what he's talking about, and yet he's supposedly like the greatest merchant on this side of the Nile River, I know the Nile exists, but you know what I mean? I would be using this very often. And and I would not allow my player, I'm sorry to say this, but I wouldn't allow my player to just go, oh, well, I wouldn't know what to say, but my player would know would know the correct answers to answer his question. It's like, no, you don't, though. If you don't have the correct background, if you didn't, if you picked the street urchin background, if you've described your character as spending most of his time being street smart and not book smart, then I'm sorry to say, but if you try to pretend to be some kind of, magic item guild member or trading guild member or merchant guild member or noble person, there's going to be shit that you just don't know. because you told me that you have been a street urchin and have gone away from books your entire life. Why the fuck would you know all the, you know, intricacies of a noble's court? So because of that, even though you may be able to create a disguise very well in my games, you know, you better have some very good answers to things, and you better have some very good reasons as to how you are able to come up with the correct answers. You know, long story short, like, you know, this ability is going to be put to the test quite often. Now, if your DM is not like that, if your DM looks at this ability and just goes, okay, yeah, you know, you literally cast a disguise self on yourself, and it is so good that you can literally blend in no matter what, as long as you've spent the 25 gold pieces and 7 days to do it, great, then this is a good ability. I just know me and my campaign, this is how I do it. That, you know, I like some of that realism. I want my players to feel like they're in this world. So if they're playing a character and they try to pretend to be something, then like, hey, I'm going to ask your character to actually pretend to be this thing. They better have some good answers to some of these questions. All right, Imposter. At 13th level, you gain the ability to unerringly mimic other people's speech, writing, and behavior. You must spend at least 3 hours studying these 3 components for the person's behavior: listening to speech, examining handwriting, or observing mannerisms. Your ruse is indiscernible to the casual observer. If a wary creature suspects something is amiss, you do have advantage on the deception check to try to avoid detection. So this combined with our 9th level ability, this helps that out quite a bit. All right, you know, basically if you spend 3 hours studying a wealthy aristocrat, their lifestyle, how they write, how they behave, things like that, you know, then then they definitely get a nice bonus if they try to then impersonate somebody and, you know, fill in some kind of role with that 9th level, you know, falsify yourself ability. But again, I'm not a very big fan of like, hey, here's this ability to get level 9. It kind of sucks, but don't worry, we patch it up and make it better at 13th level. It's like, why couldn't have you given me something that was just pretty good at 9th level and then given me something completely different at 13th? And why is it that at level 3, I get something that does a shit ton of damage, and now all the rest of this is like impersonating people? I don't know. I mean, I understand a little bit, like they're basically trying to make like a Hitman character, right? Like they're trying to make a James Bond, you know, hey, you can blend in no matter where you go. You can dress up however you are, you know, very, you know, spy family, you know, kind of thing here. Not horrible. Like I get I get the theme, but we're talking, you know, but a lot of these abilities, they're just situational enough that I was like, I can't put you into A tier for how much I know people love their assassin rogues. I can't put you there. All right, 17th level, we have Death Strike. You become a master of instant death when you attack and hit a creature that is surprised and must make a Constitution saving throw DC plus your Dex modifier, which is really nice. They're not making you use your fucking like wisdom or intelligence. I love that they're using a modifier that's actually good for you. And on a failed save, double the damage of your attack against the creature. And that is surprised, and since they've already said surprised, then that means that not only is it an auto crit, but now whatever damage you deal of a crit, you now also get to double again. So basically you quadruple damage when you combine this with 3rd level assassinate. Fantastic. I love it. It's a great ability. Hot damn, is it going to be like an insta, like 150 plus damage strike right out of the gate. But once again, we see that word surprised. And just as I've said, especially by the time you get to like 17th level, are you really dealing with like mindless creatures who never know that you're around, who never foresee, you know, who can't sense, who have no minions to warn them? Like, is that an often occurrence for you? If it is, if your DM is like, hey, you start at this, you know, you start at the mouth of the cave, and at the end of the cave is the big giant thing. There's no communication between any of them. The big bad never, has no sensors, has no alarms, has no minions, you know, that come running back and telling them when someone's, you know, invading. If that is your game, then holy shit, is this an A tier fucking rogue? But if your DM is anything like me, who's like, hey, I'm going to try to have a little bit of realism here, which means I'm going to throw a horde of hobgoblins, of goblins, of gnolls, of, you know, of basic demons or devils or whatever. And whenever I throw a little bit of a horde, as soon as the fight starts to go wrong, I'll tell you. I'll let the players know. Like, I'll give someone a chance of rolling a perception check if I think that it's maybe hidden enough. But otherwise, I'll just tell them, like, hey, you see as one gnoll is seeing what's happening and is turning around and is using its action and bonus action to dash to the back of the cave and is heading towards what looks like to be a tunnel outside the back of the cave. All right, and that is my way of telling the party, if someone cannot dimension door or get over there and stop this, then you will lose the surprise condition on whatever the fuck that, wherever that gnoll is going, you're losing it. And most of the time, I think that that's going to happen more than most. So it's a good assassin. It's an interesting assassin. I think you'd have fun with it, which is why it's B tier and definitely not C tier. But I think the people who just like look at this and go, oh my God, it's the rogue that I've always wanted. It can do so much damage so consistently. I think you're going to find that word consistent is not how you can describe the assassinate and death strike abilities. I just don't think so. All right. We are moving out of our B tiers. Like I said, Rogue, very top heavy. Most of their classes are here because a lot of them are really, really good. All right, A tier, we have the Arcane Trickster. First off, they have, they unlock their spells. All right, you have a Rogue that can cast spells using its intelligence modifier, which since Rogues are generally pretty stat efficient, which means in order to have a good Rogue, all you need is a good dex and maybe a mediocre to decent constitution. Your intelligence can be pretty damn high. You don't need a good strength or, charisma or even wisdom, really, to be a good rogue. And so because of that, you can have a good intelligence right along with your dexterity, and you won't be too split. Unlike, say, your barbarians or your paladins. All right, Mage Hand. Mage Hand Legerdemain? I don't fucking know. At 3rd level, when you cast Mage Hand, you can make a Spectral Hand invisible. And you can perform the following additional tasks with it. You can stow an object the hand is holding in a container worn or carried by another creature. You can retrieve an object in a container worn by or carried by another creature. You can use Thieves' Tools to pick the locks or disarms traps at range. You can perform one of these tasks without being noticed by a creature. If you succeed, slide a hand check, which if you're doing this, you probably have not just proficiency, but also expertise. I couldn't for the life of me fucking think of the word. Expertise in it versus their perception check. In addition, you can use the bonus action granted by your cunning action to control the hand. This is really, really cool. This did not happen in a campaign of mine, but a buddy of mine told me about it. He was playing in a campaign where he was playing an Arcane Trickster, and it was relatively low level. I think it was like 6th, 7th level. And they were fighting against a evil wizard, like a cultist wizard. And he asked the DM, hey, can I make a mage hand? And as long as I can maintain concentration on it, can I rip pages unseen from the wizard's spell book if I use my bonus action to do so? And the DM said, yeah, I don't know why you couldn't, like the way that this is worded. You have to get close enough in order to do it. You have to, but yeah, I don't know why. And so what he did is that's exactly what he did. He got nice and close. He tried to stay relatively hidden. I think he even didn't attack too much because he wanted to get close and not be seen too often. And then every turn he used it. He would rip pages out of the wizard's spell book. And the DM would then roll on a table to see which spells would get taken out and stuff like that. And it ended up absolutely destroying, it removed the couple of spells that the wizard really relied on to get out of the situation. And it was just a really cool way. And I was really I thought it was a really cool story. And I was like, that's really cool. And everything else about this ability is really awesome too. The fact that, hey, you can now disarm traps and do all these things at a distance. That's really nice, so that if you fail, hey, it may save you from getting fucking hit because you're 30 feet away. The fact that you can, the hand is invisible, which means that you can nab things, move things without having to be right there, which may very well end up, if you end up getting caught, you might have that, a little bit more ability to lie and get out of it because, hey, I wasn't standing right there. I don't know why that object moved, things like that. All right. 9th level. If you are hidden from a creature when you cast a spell on it, the creature has disadvantage on any saving throw it makes against the spell of this turn. This is nice. I will say the problem is that as a rogue, you probably aren't spending, as a 9th level rogue, you probably don't have too many good spells. At 9th level, I think all you have is 1st and 2nd level. So I don't know what spell you are casting that is that important, that like this has to be at disadvantage because it'll be game changing. But I think rogues get like Hypnotic Pattern, which this could be very, very beneficial for. I love Hypnotic Pattern, and I think that, this is definitely an ability that, could be useful. If you go into the combat hidden, this could be something very interesting. Alright, Versatile Trickster, 13th level, you gain the ability to distract targets with your mage hand. As a bonus action on your turn, you can designate a creature within 5 feet of the spectral hand. Just basically mess with them, right? Poke them in the nose a couple of times. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls against the creature until the end of the turn. Congratulations, you've now given yourself guaranteed sneak attack. Bonus action, poke the dude in the face with the fucking hand. Action, now you have advantage on the strike, which means if you hit, you immediately get that sneak attack damage. Doesn't matter anything else. Because the way sneak attack is written is that you as a rogue, if you attack and you had advantage on it, you get sneak. Fantastic. Alright, Spell Thief. At 17th level, you gain the ability to magically steal the knowledge of how to cast a spell from another spellcaster. Immediately after a creature casts a spell that targets you or includes you in its area of effect, you can use your reaction to force the creature to make a saving throw with its spellcasting ability modifier. The DC equals your spell save DC, which is Intelligence. On a failed save, you negate the spell's effect on you, and you steal the knowledge of the spell if it is at least 1st level and of a level that you can cast, which is only up to 4th level, by the way. For the next 8 hours, you know the spell and can cast it using your spell slots. The creature can cast that spell until the 8 hours have passed. This is a nice little, hey, the enemy keeps using the shield spell to make it so that our heavy hitters just can't fucking hit it because its AC gets monstrous. Or hey, this character keeps using Misty Step or Dimension Door or, something else, Fireball, Lightning Bolt. Just you being able to swipe it, and for them not being able to now cast it for 8 hours, removing their ability to fly or go invisible or to heal, cure wounds. This is really, really good because it doesn't need to be a wizard spell. It just needs to be of a level you know. This is a fantastic ability. Really cool. I love it. The only thing I wish that I would do is I wish it would then say that you would get to cast it for free once. Like on that turn, you would get to, use it. I think that, for free. But hey, it is what it is. It's still good. Arcane Trickster, still a solid choice. And as I've said before in previous videos, spellcasting is so broken. It creates such utility for characters here in 5th edition that anytime you can have a melee class be able to use spellcasting on a consistent basis, you make that class better. So giving a rogue the ability to cast spells makes it better. This is A tier, no argument. Also in A tier, we have the Phantom Rogue. Alrighty. I love the theme here. Some of the abilities I think could have been a little bit better, but I love the theme. I think it's cool. Alright, Whispers of the Dead. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, echoes of those who have died cling to you. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you gain 1 skill or tool proficiency of your choice, as a ghostly presence shares its knowledge with you. You lose this proficiency when you use this feature to choose a different proficiency that you lack. Remember how you had to use your channel divinity as a fucking knowledge cleric to be able to do this? You remember that? Yeah, this rogue gets to just fucking do it. And they get to do it on a short or long rest. Just all the time. Yeah, I love it. It's good. Alright, anytime the party needs something, hey, just give me a minute. Give me 30 minutes. Alright, give me an hour. Alright, and I will be able to be better at doing what we need to be done. Alright, Wails of the Grave at 3rd level. As you nudge someone closer to the grave, you can channel the power of death to harm someone else as well. Immediately after you deal your sneak attack damage to a creature on your turn, you can target a second creature. We love that. We rogues, we love being able to attack multiple targets because normally we only got 1 attack. So anytime we can spread it out, we love it. You target a second creature that is within 30 feet of the first one. Pretty decent range, all said. Roll half the number of sneak attack dice for your level, round it up, and the second creature takes necrotic damage equal to the roll's total, as wails of the dead surround them for the moment. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Again, I like when these kinds of things use a number that increases naturally. It's not tied to your intelligence modifier, which means I don't have to, if I have, maybe say I rolled stats, or maybe we had a point buy system, or, your standard spread when we started the campaign, so that my dex is like 15 or 16, so I, as a rogue, I naturally want to increase my dex, but oh shit, look, this ability uses my intelligence. That means I have to choose between either really helping on my dexterity, which helps me out with my stealth, my sleight of hands, my AC, my attacks, or my intelligence, which just helps these abilities, but they're good abilities. Like, I don't know. I love it when they use a number that increases naturally and at a pretty decent rate that I don't feel like I'm having to spread my points out. So I love that they chose proficiency bonus here. All right, tokens of the departed. At 9th level, when a life ends in your presence, you're able to snatch a token from the departed soul. A sliver of its life essence then takes physical form. As a reaction, when a creature you see dies within 30 feet of you, you can open a free hand and cause a tiny little trinket to appear there, known as a soul trinket. We DMs get to decide what it looks like, but it would probably look like a doll or something that like maybe the character had on them. You can have a maximum number of soul trinkets equal to your proficiency bonus. So again, another number that will scale naturally. You don't have to increase it yourself. And you cannot create one while you are at your maximum. All right, as long as you have it on you, you get advantage on death saves. If you use it, which I believe is bonus action, then you can immediately use the Wails of the Grave. All right, when normally, Wails of the Grave, there is a limit there. Or you can use, I believe it is an action, and you may ask the dead soul who you have captured in your trinket a question, and basically have a one question speak with dead spell activated. I love this ability. I think this is so cool. Advantage on death saves is nothing to bitch about. Being able to increase the chances of us using that Wails of the Grave ability, fantastic. And the fact that I then also get something creative. I love the ability to ask the dead a question, because I find that most DMs, we have piles of fucking lore and information in our head, but players just don't ask the right questions, or they just don't give us the opportunities to lore dump on them. And so to be able to say, hey DM, I think we may have missed something. I think that dead person who I killed back there maybe knows something. I would like to use this. I would find that DMs, I think that they, most DMs I think would love that you have this ability and that you use it. I sure would. So, fantastic ability. Nothing to complain about. All right, Ghost Walk. At 13th level, you can phase partially into the realm of the dead, becoming like a ghost. As a bonus action, you assume a spectral form. While in this form, you have a flying speed of 10 feet. You can hover. Attack rolls have disadvantage against you. You can also move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you do take 1d10 force damage if you end your turn inside the creature or object. It doesn't say you can't move, end your turn there. You just take a little bit of damage if you do. You stay in this form for 10 minutes or until you end it as a bonus action. To use this feature again, you must finish a long rest or destroy one of your soul trinkets as part of a bonus action you use to activate Ghost Walk. Fucking fantastic. You are a rogue in which you have a fly speed. You are now spectral. You can hover in and out of spaces and walls and buildings. This is like this ability alone, and it's at 13th level, which is a level that is obtainable in many games. It's not our capstone. This is something that if this would have been in like the handbook, this would have been like a level 18, 19 fucking ability. So it's like, yeah, unless you play really high ranking, you ain't fucking playing this ability. This is so cool, so fun. There are so many cool ways that this could be used. And it's 10 minutes. Which means that it is designed to be both in combat and out of combat. And it's a bonus action to go into it, so you can still fucking hit somebody. Fantastic. Love it. Great, 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 great rogue. Alright, Death Knell. At 17th level, your association with death has become so close that you gain the following benefits. Now, when you use your Wails of the Grave, you can now deal the necrotic damage to both the first and second creature. At the end of a long rest, a soul trinket appears in your hand if you don't have any soul trinkets, as the spirits of the dead are now drawn to you. I personally I would rule it if I was a DM and I had a player who was a Phantom Rogue and they made it to 17th level. I would not count that soul trinket as one of the ones as their maximum. Because it says at the end of a long rest, a soul trinket appears in your hand if you don't already have the soul trinkets as the spirits, if you don't have any soul trinkets as the spirits of the dead are drawn to you. So if you end a long rest, you wake up and you find that something has appeared next to you. You then gain, like I would not allow that to count as your other one. So if you go out and you kill people for a little while, this may force a little bit of murder hoboing, but I would not have this count as my maximum, or count towards my maximum, because I don't know, like this to me just is like, hey, the spirits of the dead are drawn to you. Like this, this isn't part of your tokens of the departed ability. Like this is just something that you just get. I think anyway. This is anyway. Even if the DM doesn't rule it that way, getting one every day, it's useful. So I love it. A tier, no question. All right, right along here with A tier, we have the Soul Knife. I will be honest, I almost had 2 S tiers in the Rogue class. Technically, I almost had 3, to be honest. And the Phantom was going to be one of them as well. The Soul Knife was going to be a second. So if this puts into perspective how crazy I think these subclasses are, there you go. I don't think there's any other classes that I really have to think about which one I think is the best. But I think that this one is really fucking good. Almost S tier. Alright, Psionic Power. Starting at 3rd level, you harbor a wellspring of psionic energy within yourself. This energy is represented by your psionic energy dice, which are D6. You have a number of these dice equal to twice your proficiency bonus, and they fuel various psionic powers you have, which are detailed below. This is going to have kind of vibes like the psionic, like the Psi Fighter, the Psi Warrior, whatever, from our fighter class. But they get to use theirs for cooler things, in my opinion. Alright, some of your powers expend psionic energy dice that they use, kind of like, tokens, money, coins, while others, you use them and they roll. You roll on them and they give you something. You regain all expended psionic energy dice when you finish a long rest. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain one of them, but you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So, whatever it says your maximum, which is twice your proficiency bonus, always keep in mind that that's not your daily max. Alright, if you can get that short rest in there a couple of times, you can have more than that. But you can't have more than what you are able to have maximum. So, in other words, they're telling you, hey, go use some, because you can get them back later, but you can't get them back if you have max. So, anyway. Alright, Psychic Blades. At 3rd level, you can manifest your psionic energy as shimmering blades of psychic power. I know I totally switched those 2 words around, but it's okay. Whenever you take the attack action, you can manifest a psychic blade from your free hand and make the attack with that blade. This magic blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. It has a normal range of 60 feet, no long range ability, and on a hit, it deals psychic damage equal to 1d6 plus your ability modifier you used for the attack roll. So again, you can use either intelligence or dexterity. The blade vanishes immediately after it hits, or misses the target and leaves no mark on its target if it deals damage. After you attack with the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with the second psychic blade as a bonus action, provided you have a free hand to do so, which you probably will. The damage die for this, however, is a D4 instead of a D6. This is cool. I like it. I like the vibe of it. I will say that my problem is that this D6 will sadly never get bigger. You will only ever be able to do 1d6. Now, there's going to be some things we get to add to it, but I wish that there was some scaling. I wish that this wasn't a constant d6. But anyway, we'll keep moving here. But it's good. I like the vibe of it. I like the feel of like, hey, I can make a knife that no one can trace. It vanishes. Once it hits somebody, it disappears. I like it. It's cool, I will say. All right. Soul Blade, starting at 9th level. Your Psychic Blades are now an expression of your suffused soul, giving you these powers that use the psionic dice. Homing Strikes. If you make an attack roll with your Psychic Blades and miss the target, you can roll 1 psionic energy and add the number rolled to the attack roll. If this causes the attack to hit, you expend the energy die, which means if you miss, you don't. Psychic Energy. Or Psychic Teleportation, sorry. As a bonus action, you manifest one of your Psychic Blades, expand a psionic die and roll it. throw the blade to non-occupied space that you can see up to a number of feet away equal to 10 times the number rolled. So since these are D6s, then that means the most we could do is like say 60 feet. You then teleport to that space and the blade vanishes. I don't like this ability, and the reason why I don't like this ability, it's cool, I like the vibe, but there's one big thing that I don't like about it, and that is the fact that you leave it completely up to chance. You're 9th level, like you're good at throwing these daggers, and supposedly I have a range of these psychic dagger, these psychic, psionic daggers out to 60 feet. So why is it that when I want to throw it somewhere else, like I wish that it said that, hey, you can roll, like, hey, there is no roll here. That's my problem. I don't like that it's a rolled thing. I wish that it was just, hey, you expend a psionic die and you can move either 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60 feet. I don't like that it's, hey, roll it and then times it by 10. Because that means you may be like, hey, there's a roof 30 feet up. Here, let me chuck a dagger. I have a 3 out of 6 chance of 4, technically. I have a 4 out of 6 chance of getting it. So you roll and it's a 1. All right, make an acrobatics check to see if you can land on your feet as you hit the wall a third of the way up and are now falling back down. You're dropping 10 feet to hit the dirt. Okay, acrobatics check succeeded. Okay, well, let me try again. 2. You go 2/3 of the way up, but it's a flat wall, so there's nothing to grab a hold of. So once again, make another acrobatics check as you fall down. Like, you see where I'm going here. Like, if you just don't roll well, like, you could be expending uses for something that could be so trivial. I like what they tried to do. I just wish that it could have been better. Alright, Psychic Veil. At 13th level, you can weave a veil of psychic static to mask yourself. As an action, you can magically become invisible along with anything you are wearing or carrying for an hour or until you dismiss it. This invisibility ends early, immediately after you deal damage to a creature or force a creature to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, or expend a psionic die to use it again. This is better than invisibility by a long shot, and the reason why this is better than invisibility is because according to invisibility, you break invisibility normally when you deal damage, cause a creature to make a saving throw, or if you interact with an object. A lot of DMs forget that. If I have to open a door or lockpick something, that technically breaks my invisibility as written in the invisibility spell. This, though, only says if I deal damage or force a creature to make a saving throw. Which means it's entirely possible I could be invisible for an hour. And I like that. This is a cool ability. And this is good both in and out of combat. It could help get you nice and close for that first strike. Or you could spend an hour being fucking invisible and literally being able to tiptoe, go around, teleport through buildings, whatever, very, very easily. I like it. Alright, Rend Mind. When you reach 17th level, you can sweep your Psychic Blade directly through a creature's mind. When you use your Psychic Blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force that target to make a Wisdom saving throw. If the fail saves, the target is stunned for 1 minute. The stunned target can repeat its save throw at the end of its turn, and once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest or expend 3 of your psionic dice to do so again. But just fucking think about that. Like, you can stun something, you can do a shit ton of damage and then stun it, and the fact that it uses your dex modifier, it's not relying on, which odds are you're a rogue, your dex is probably your best number. This is such a cool ability. This is so cool, so powerful at 17th level. Anyone who has ever, played a monk and used Stunning Strike, how fucking powerful this is. And the fact that it's continuous. It's not till the end of the next round. They're stunned until they make the save. Or for a minute, which is 10 rounds. I love it. I'm all about it. This is a fantastic rogue. It gives you so much utility, and yet you can still do a decent amount of damage. I'm all about it. I love it. A tier. All right, third. Like I said, we're top heavy here. All right, we have 3 of our subclasses in A tier. 4, technically. All right, fancy footwork. When you choose the Swashbuckler, I guess I should say that. A tier, we have the Swashbuckler. At 3rd level, when you choose the Swashbuckler, you learn how to land a strike and then slip away without reprisal. During your turn, if you make a melee attack against a creature, that creature cannot make opportunity attacks against you for the rest of your turn. It's a free mobile feat. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Alright, Rakish Audacity. Starting at 3rd level, your confidence propels you into battle. You can give yourself a bonus to your initiative equal to your charisma. You also gain an additional way to use your sneak attack. You don't need advantage anymore. Now you just need to be the only guy fighting in 5 feet. Alright, so this basically just means that, you know, you will be able to use sneak attack very often, not having to rely on either having someone, you know, being right next to them or, you know, getting a drop on anybody. Just overall, a good chance, good possibility of getting more of those sneak attacks off. Alright, Panache. At 9th level, your charm becomes extraordinarily beguiling. As an action, you can make a charisma, persuasion, check contested by a creature's insight check. The creature must be able to hear you, and the two of you must share a language. If you succeed on the check and the creature is hostile to you, it now has disadvantage on attack rolls on targets other than you. And you cannot make opportunity attacks against other targets other than you. This effect lasts for 1 minute, until one of your companion attacks the target or affects with a spell, or until you and the target are more than 60 feet apart. If you succeed on the check and the creature isn't hostile to you, it is charmed by you for 1 minute. While charmed, it regards you as a friendly acquaintance. This effect ends immediately if you or your companions do anything harmful to it. I love this ability because it gives me very Jack Sparrow, played only by fucking Johnny Depp, by the way. This gives me a very big, you know, Jack Sparrow vibe. You know, especially like in Curse of the Black Pearl, where, you know, you got, you know, that very first initial fight of like Will Turner versus Jack Sparrow there in the blacksmith shop. You know, where Jack Sparrow, like, he's so good at harassing. That's basically what this is, right? Like, you know, you're harassing somebody to the point to where it's like, fine, I'm, you know, fuck everybody else. I'm only going to target you. You know, you pissed me off enough. You know, this, you know, it's almost, you know, this is what vicious mockery should be, you know. And just, you know, you hinder them, you make them focus on you. It's kind of a nice little soft taunt ability where it makes them have to attack you. And since you are a rogue and you get, say, your it's not cunning action, it is your uncanny dodge, you know, you may be able to take more damage from them than, you know, your allies are. You know, you have a better chance of having it or even evading it, you know, thanks to evasion, than others. Now, I will say that there are a number of stipulations that make this stop, such as anyone else getting involved, any spells getting cast, you guys getting too far apart. But if you're in the middle of combat, I feel like this is a pretty big thing. I will say the only problem is this is an action. I wish this was a bonus action. I think that would make this much better. Because, you know, to give up an entire round of attack and possibility of sneak attack damage, you know, this is something you save for the really big bad who you just know is a big bag of fucking hit points. You know, where you know one attack's probably not going to make that big of a difference, you know, like, then I would use it. But besides that, and the fact that it's useful out of combat, the fact that it gives you a stipulation that says, hey, you know, here's what it can do in combat, here's what it can do out of combat, I love it. All right, Elegant Maneuver. At 13th level, you can use your bonus action on your turn to gain advantage on the next acrobatics or strength check you make during the same turn. Pretty spotty, I will admit. Pretty may or may not be used. But I tell you what, I don't know who wouldn't be upset if they could just grant themselves a bonus, you know, an advantage on, you know, an ability to climb something or slide down something or fall off of something or land on something. Like, I think that acrobatics and athletics, I think that those are two ability scores that can be used often enough. I think that you would use this ability sporadically. Not all the time. I wish that it was all dexterity checks, which I know might be kind of a little, maybe a little too OP, but like, I wish it would have been like acrobatics, stealth, sleight of hand. You know, I wish that there was just a little bit more, because acrobatics and athletics, I don't know. I wish there was a little bit more to it, but it's a bonus action, which I like. There's no, you know, limited amount. It's the weakest of all abilities here for the Swashbuckler, but still not horrible. All right, finally we have Master Duelist. This is our capstone. Your mastery of the blade lets you turn failure into success. If you miss with an attack roll, you can re-roll it with advantage. Once you do so, though, you cannot do it to go until you finish a short or long rest. Kind of lackluster. Pretty lackluster. However, this is the one time where I'm like, hey, it is your 17th level, though. You know, like, odds are you're probably not playing, to your 17th level in most of your campaigns. So, hey, it's shit, it's shit in the bed a little bit. It's pulling a little bit of an Amber Heard, but you know what? We're here though, right? Like I don't know. And I will admit, maybe this is me with some rose-colored glasses on right now, that I want this to be decent, but definitely kind of falls short. Your 13th and 17th level abilities are definitely not the best, and it's definitely why this could not be S tier. However, the Panache ability is good. Your Rakish Audacity is fantastic. Your Fancy Footwork is good. There's so much about it that is good, and the fact that this is a rogue, you can't go wrong with it. So maybe it's an A- tier. Maybe this is almost closer to B+, but I love it so much, and it can do so much stuff outside of just, the Assassin Rogue stuff, that I like it. I like it more than that. I think it's more useful than that. Fuck it, I'm putting it into A tier. Alright, I'm solidifying it. We're putting this into our A tier, despite how much it shits the bed later on. Okay. That means there's only one left. There's only one rogue that takes the cake. There's only one subclass that can be my S tier. For how much I wanted to do 3. For how much I wanted Soul Knife and Phantom and this one to be S tiers. I just knew I couldn't, because I started these videos with the promise that I would pick the one that I thought was the best. And the one I think is best is Inquisitor. This is the definition of a subclass done right. It gives you abilities that are good in and out of combat. And what it does so well. Let's talk about it. Ear for Deceit. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, whenever you make an insight check to determine if a creature is lying, anything lower than a 7 on the d20 is an 8. This is fucking fantastic. Let's just say, for the sake of it, that you put proficiency and expertise into your insight check. Let us say that your wisdom insight, let's say that your wisdom is a 2, right? Because it's probably not going to be your highest. Odds are your dex is probably your highest, your con is probably your second highest, intelligence is maybe 3rd. So we'll say wisdom is like maybe an 11, a 12, all right, or maybe a 14 if we got lucky. So it's got a 1 or 2 in there. But as soon as you put that beautiful, wonderful little expertise in there, then right out of the gate at 3rd level, that's 4 plus 2, that's 6, which means the absolute lowest you could ever roll on this thing is a 14. The lowest possible insight you can roll is a 14, and it only gets better from there. And who knows, maybe if you're not doing standard array, maybe if you're doing rolling, a number of these abilities, use your wisdom. So maybe wisdom is higher for you. Maybe you can get a 15, 16, 18 wisdom in this class easier than what I think you can. And if so, depending on how your DM lets you get your stats, who knows? Maybe you find yourself being able to, I have a player who is 3rd level, and the lowest he could roll was a 16. Because I think we rolled stats, and he had like a monster, like a 17 or 18 in his wisdom immediately. Such a cool thing. I love it. All right, Eye for Detail. You can use a bonus action, make a perception check to spot hidden creatures or objects, or make investigation checks to uncover or decipher clues. This may sound like a little bit of a shitting of the bed kind of a effect, where it's just like, okay, maybe, but it's a bonus action. Like, is it really that cool? This is one of those where it is a little up to DM discretion. But I will say that if a player had this, which he did, I would rule it that, okay, whenever you make a wisdom and a perception or investigation check, I'm going to keep in mind you have this ability. You have an eye for detail. Which means I'm going to set a DC, even if it's just like a couple of points. Average DC to spot that, trapdoor under the rug is normally a DC 14 perception. For you, it's a 12. Because you have an eye for detail. You can still miss it, but you have a better chance of making it. But that's me. I do that. I admit. All right, but this is the good one, and this is the combat one. Insightful Fighting. At 3rd level, you gain the ability to decipher an opponent's tactics. As a bonus action, you can make an insight check against their deception. If you succeed, you can now use your sneak attack with nothing needing to assist you at all for 1 minute. There is no limit to this. You can do it as many times as you want as a bonus action. And once you do it once, You're solid for a minute. This is fantastic. You don't need to separate them out like the swashbuckler does. You don't need to get the jump on them and surprise them like the assassin. This just gives you. Once you make the save once you make that successful insight check once, you now have guaranteed sneak attack for the rest of combat. Fantastic. Steady Eye, 9th level, you gain advantage on any perception or investigation check if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. Congratulations if you thought this character was good at investigating and perceiving things before. Now, like, this is an out of combat thing. Like, hey, we're investigating this room. Hey, I'm going to really focus on this wall. Can I investigate it? Sure. Hey, since I'm staying within this wall, since I'm staying near this wall, I'm probably not moving too much. Can I get advantage according to this ability? Absolutely, you sure can. And now their DC is lower because of Eye of Detail. I love it. I love it. I love it. We're given abilities that are good in combat with insightful fighting and out of combat Steady Eye and Eye for Detail. And Ear of Deceit. All right, 13th level, we have Unerring Eye. Your senses are almost impossible to foil. As an action, you sense the presence of illusions, shape changers that are not in their original form, and other magic designed to deceive the senses within 30 feet of you, provided you are not blind or deafened. You sense that an effect is attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its true nature. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. Anytime you think you're getting fucked with. Anytime you walk into a room and after you spend a little bit of time and can't find anything, hey DM, fuck it. I use this ability. Is there any form of illusion, any form of magic, anything that is designed to deceive my senses? That's pretty vague, which is good for a player. Vagueness in this situation means, yeah, anything, runes, magic, illusion stuff, things that are meant to, keep you out, things that are meant to hide what they are. Fantastic, right? This is solid. This is a solid ability. All right, Eye of Weakness. At 17th level, you learn to exploit a creature's weakness by carefully studying its tactics. While you are in your insightful fighting, your sneak attack now does an even more delicious 3d6 damage. 3d6 is not a small sum. I wish it was maybe a little bit better because the average of 3d6 is about 10. It's 10 to 12 points of damage on average. But that's still almost guaranteed because, again, you have it. You have sneak attack on any strike now that on a strike, I guess I should say, on a strike thanks to your insightful fighting. This, to me, is what subclasses are all about. They know what the Inquisitor, what it was supposed to be. It's someone who investigates. It's someone who looks into things. It's someone who researches, who finds the lies, the truth behind the illusion of lies, and then scope it out and kill it. And that's exactly what this class does. It helps you kill things while at the same time giving you so many tools to be useful and efficient outside of combat. This is why this class is S tier for me. For how much I like the Soul Knife, a lot of the Soul Knife's abilities, they're just, they're situational, or they don't do exactly as good as what, you would like them to be. In terms of the Phantom, again, a great, fantastic class, but again, you're kind of reliant on your soul trinkets, which means you have to go out and kill things, often, which is going to kind of push you more towards a combat-oriented thing. And if you don't have enough soul trinkets until you get to that final ability, you just don't have any. Like, you're gonna have to go kill things constantly, and pretty severe things, humanoid things probably. I doubt your DM's gonna let you just go kill rabbits, and collect their souls. This is why Inquisitor for me is S tier, and it's why for how much I wanted, for how much I really liked Phantom and Soul Knife, I knew Inquisitor had to take the cake, because it is one of the few subclasses of the Rogue that gives you so many fun things to do in and out of combat social encounters. But hey, this is my list. This is what I think. Maybe I convinced you, maybe I didn't. Who knows? But whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy. We are almost wrapping up here. The next one we got after the Rogue here, I believe, is I think we're in our Spellcasters. I think after the Rogue we have the Sorcerer, and then the Wizard, And then the Warlock. I think we're down to our last 3 spellcasters. And the Sorcerer being, to be honest, my favorite of all spellcasters. It is... I'm looking forward to it. So I hope that you enjoy. I hope you come back to check those out. Whatever the case, I will catch you next time.